America has failed in her opportunity to create a framework for world peace following the collapse of the Soviet Union. In the days after World War II, when the Soviet Union came to power in a way that threatened democracies around the world, in conjunction with the direction that China went with the turn to communism, there was a time perhaps, and I would say likely, where a strong U.S. military involvement with clear objectives was on the world stage, projecting military might in ways that quash the spread of communism as reflected in its implementation and destruction of the Soviet Union and China. Insofar as China opened its doors in I think it was around the 80s and 90s, to a more liberal economic policy while still retaining the basic communist framework, and the collapse of the Soviet Union in the late 80s and early 90s opened the door to a new way of engaging with Russia and the former states of the Soviet Union. America failed to make a transition in her thinking with respect to the outside world that put the military second to securing peace through other economic, scientific, social means. As a result, the military industrial complex continued to grow in power, and its power could only be maintained and its economic influence could only be secured if there were, in fact, battles and enemies to be fought. The degree to which democracy will always have enemies, and the degree to which the enemies of democracy have been fostered by those who need war from which to profit, perhaps could be debated in a way that gives us greater clarity as to what has been transpiring in the past 50 years through today and into the near future, for sure. But we don't even have an environment in which we can discuss such things honestly. As Mike Johnson and Democrats and Republicans appear poised to pass today, April 20th, 2024, a package of military aid for Ukraine with aid to Israel and then aid to Taiwan and the Far East, we have to ask ourselves why in the world we are continuing to pursue a course that has failed to accomplish any of the stated objectives relative to democracy and peace on the world stage over the last 50 years. In fact, we might ask ourselves why, having spent trillions of dollars on military investments and projects over the last 50 years, the world was less secure than ever before, and yet we continue to follow the same ideas, the same leadership, down the same path of death and destruction. As we face multi-trillion dollar a year deficits, as we face unrest at home, as we have an immigration policy that has effectively set the stage for transforming in some fundamental ways how America's social safety net and big city systems actually function. We are continuing to act as if we can fund indefinitely military causes that have no clear objectives other than some nebulous, we're fighting for democracy and we're fighting against the bad guy, without stopping to look in the mirror and ask ourselves if in fact we're the bad guy, if in fact democracy as we understand it is what the world actually needs, if in fact democracy as we understand it can be realized without the hundreds and even thousands of years of social and philosophical development that brought us to the point where in 1776 those founding fathers of America were able to pull together ideas that led to the establishment of the United States of America. So as we consider where we're going in this election season, with an election that few, if any, are looking forward to, with President Biden and President Trump being the nominees from the Democrats and the Republicans, respectively, as we face a year in which Congress continues to act in a divided fashion, seemingly without principles with regard to legislative action and direction. It's time to figure out how in the world we can hold our elected representatives accountable for charting a course that brings security to America, stability to America, and on the world stage. Thank you much. Look forward to hearing what you have to say. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a couple other videos listed here if you'd like to take a look at those. And as I'd like to discuss issues related to politics, religion, society, and how in the world we're supposed to understand ourselves and life in the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.